I died in the emergency room, and there wasn't a single person by my bedside. The doctor confirmed one last time, "Are you, the family, absolutely sure you want to decline life-saving measures?" My wife, Jessica Miller, stood by the window, her expression a flat, cold line. "Yes, he's always been in poor health. There's no point in forcing him to live." Her brother, Kyle, stood nearby, a cigarette dangling from his lips. He rolled his eyes. "That money's better off invested in my new project. I can triple it. Why waste it on a dying piece of trash?" I tried to speak, but I had no strength left. My consciousness faded, the world dissolving into their casual, cruel words, each one a knife scraping against bone. "Just sign the papers. Don't waste the doctor's time. He did this to himself. No one can save him." When I died, the last 4 drip wasn't even finished. 3 days later, I was cremated. Jessica, dressed in the Chanel suit I'd bought her, her lips painted a vibrant red, accepted the check for the $1. $5 million life insurance policy. "You know," she said to her mother with a laugh, "if I'd known he'd kick the bucket this fast, I would have taken out a few more policies." Her brother held a bottle of whiskey in one hand and waved the other in the air. "Wire me 75 grand. I'm about to close on a new property." "Done," she agreed instantly. "It's what your brother-in-law left us, after all." The money I had paid for with my life, they split it with a smile. I was reborn. The moment I opened my eyes, I was back 5 years in the past. I had just landed my first major contract. A wire $4 too. $5 million had just hit my account. The balance on my screen was that exact number. I sat frozen on the sofa, a cold sweat breaking out across my skin. "Ethan, hurry up and use your card. My brother's waiting to buy his car," Jessica called out, walking out of the bedroom while toweling her hair. Her expression was identical to that day, 5 years ago. She was holding the purchase agreement. The owner was listed as Kyle Miller. The payer was me. And suddenly, I understood the meaning of a second chance. Fate had decided I wasn't meant to die. God, or whatever was out there, wanted me to grind these leeches into the dirt. I smiled faintly. "Jess, I just remembered that prenuptial agreement we signed. Do you still have it?" She paused. "What agreement?" "The one about keeping our assets separate. Don't you think we should probably review and update that?" Her face changed. "What are you trying to say? You don't trust me." "Not at all. I'm just worried about things getting messy with your brother's ventures. It's better if we keep our finances clearly defined." She hesitated for a few seconds, her eyes flickering. Then she threw her arms around me. "Ethan, I know how hard you work for your money. Kyle is your brother too. He wouldn't be reckless." I gently pushed her away. Even family needs to put things on paper. Everyone is equal in the eyes of the law. The smile vanished from her face. The next day, I brought my lawyer in and upgraded that prenup to an ironclad asset separation and independent control agreement. It explicitly stated that all my personal income, assets, and investment returns acquired during the marriage were mine alone and had nothing to do with Jessica Miller. If she were to dispose of any of my assets without authorization, it would be treated as theft and prosecuted accordingly. She forced a smile as she signed, but her hand was trembling. That night, she tried to sidle up to me. "Ethan, tonight I was thinking." "Stop acting," I said, my voice cold. "Go tell your brother I canceled the payment for his car. I tore up the contract, and the deposit has been refunded." "You what?" "He called me a piece of trash, remember? Let him earn it himself." Her voice shot up. "Ethan, are you trying to start a war with my family?" I stared her straight in the eye and said, word by word, "As of right now, I'm cutting all ties with you and your family. We're done." She started to cry. I knew she wasn't crying for me. She was crying for the $80,000 Mercedes and the down payment that had just evaporated. The third day, she stopped talking to me, starting a cold war. The fourth day, her mom called to mediate. "Ethan, when a woman cries, it means she cares about you. You need to be the bigger person." I wasn't listening. I just hung up. The fifth day, she couldn't take it anymore and laid her cards on the table. "Is something wrong with your company?" "It's okay. My brother has connections." I cut her off. "Where does your brother work now?" She froze. "He's starting his own business. A TikTok marketing agency." "How much does he make a month?" She looked down. "It's a startup. It's not profitable yet." I laughed. "Every startup your brother has ever launched was just a hole that I had to pour my money into. This time, I'm not playing the fool." "You've changed," she yelled. You were never like this before. I stood up, looking at her calmly. You're right. I used to be an idiot. I'm not anymore. She ran into the bedroom, crying, and slammed the door. You'll regret this. I laughed to myself. This time around, the only one feeling regret will be the one who deserves it. Jessica's silent treatment didn't last 3 days before reality came crashing down. Ethan, my brother's about to get shaken down by collectors, she said, her voice laced with panic. Can you just lend him some money? $15,000, just to give him some breathing room. I was looking through a stack of old bank statements, records I'd never bothered to check in my past life. Every wire transfer, every IOU, every loan application seemed to have Kyle Miller's name attached to it. She said, just this once, but I was looking at 48 different last times. I put the ledger down. I thought you said his new venture was a sure thing. How is he already in debt? She lied instinctively. It's just some initial investment trouble. In debt from the start. What did he use for seed money? Her expression faltered. Where are you getting at? What am I getting at? I let out a cold laugh. I'll tell you what. If Kyle Miller ever dares to ask me for another dime, I'll make sure his next stop is a jail cell. She was shaking with rage. You're insane. Not insane. Just awake. That evening, Kyle showed up himself. He kicked the door so hard the frame rattled. Ethan, what the hell is your problem? You promised you'd bankroll my new platform. I leaned against the sofa, arms crossed. Bankroll you? Who promised that? My sister did. It's your money. You make the calls. I chuckled softly and pulled out the newly signed agreement, waving it in front of his face. Not anymore. His face went pale. What is this crap? You're not a man. I stood up and patted his shoulder. Your sister knows perfectly well whether I'm a man or not. You, on the other hand, are a 30-year-old with no real job, asking for 6 figures to fund a project. Who do you think you're kidding? Don't push your luck. He rolled up his sleeves. I'll show you what family means. Great. Let's go down to the police station and talk about family, I said, pulling a printed document from behind my back, proof that he had fraudulently taken out a $30,000 loan in my company's name last year. Every signature, every stamp was there. The color drained from his face. You, how did you? I cut him off coldly. Kyle, did you really think I was that stupid? You used my information to get that loan last year and never paid back a cent. If I press charges right now, do you think you're walking out of this apartment? His legs gave out, and he collapsed onto the floor. Ethan, bro, let's talk about this. I'm still young, I can change. Too late. I dialed 911, my voice as calm as if I were taking out the trash. The police arrived in 5 minutes. Jessica rushed in, clinging to Kyle for dear life. Ethan, I'm begging you, let him go. We're family. I stared into her tear-filled eyes. Sorry, but family doesn't watch me die in hospital bed and then laugh while they split the insurance money. Her face went white, her lips trembling. You're holding a grudge? No, this is karma. As the police cuffed Kyle, he was still struggling. Jess, help me. You said he always listens to you. Jessica broke down completely. Ethan, he'll have a criminal record. He should have had 1 year ago. I turned and walked back inside without a second glance. 3 days later, Jessica moved out. Her mother called, threatening me. Are you trying to drive our whole family to ruin? I replied calmly. When you were all enjoying the money I earned, did you ever stop to think that I might die? Didn't you promise you'd love my daughter forever? The old woman shrieked. I listened quietly, then ended with a single sentence. Don't contact me again. Your next correspondence will be from my lawyer. After hanging up, I made another call. Mr. Davis, please begin the divorce proceedings. He sounded surprised. Are you certain, Mr. Cross? And you want to ensure all assets remain under your personal ownership? That's correct. The day we finalized the divorce, Jessica wasn't wearing her favorite Chanel suit. She wasn't wearing any makeup. The moment she walked in, she dropped to her knees. Ethan, I was wrong. My brother is a monster, but I really do love you. I handed her the divorce papers. Sign this, and we're even. She clutched at my pant leg. You said you'd never leave me. That was the man from my last life, I said, looking down at her. In this life, I only trust contracts, not people. Tears streamed down her face as she choked out words of regret. I didn't look at her again. I signed my name, stamped the document, stood up, and walked away. The moment the door clicked shut, I heard her wail, a sound of utter devastation. Too bad. She was crying for her future, not for my past. The day after the divorce, Jessica posted on her Instagram, "When a person's heart changes, nothing else matters." Her relatives and best friends flooded the comments, calling me out. What a scumbag. Got rich off his wife, and now he thinks he's too good for her. Men are all trash. Jessica is gorgeous. He must be blind. I smirked, blocked every last one of them, and then posted an update of my own. Freedom is the whole point of being reborn. The post instantly got over 10,000 likes. I'm not an influencer. I'm a real businessman. In this life, I will never be anyone's ATM again. I will never bend for the sake of emotion. The real counterattack was just getting started. 3 days after Kyle was sent to a holding cell, Jessica finally panicked. She asked to meet, saying we needed to talk face to face. The spot was a coffee shop near her mother's place. I just sat down when she arrived, dressed in a baggy sweatshirt and sweatpants. Her face was bare, her expression haggard. "Ethan, can't we please give us one more chance?" I shook my head, my tone flat. "You want me to get Kyle out of trouble?" Her eyes immediately reddened. "My brother is a screw-up, but he's the only family I have left. So your life's mission is to bankrupt your husband to support your deadbeat brother?" I glanced up at her. She gritted her teeth. "No, it's just, we had something once, didn't we? Can you eat something? Can it save your life? You fed me that same line for 10 years in my last life." Her expression hardened, and her voice dropped to a whisper. "Then what is it you want?" I smiled. "I don't want anything. I'm just taking back what's mine." "What are you talking about?" She was instantly on high alert. I pulled a document from my briefcase. "Remember when you went behind my back and used my downtown condo as collateral for a loan to fund your brother's little TikTok agency?" Her pupils constricted. You said we were past that." "I did say that." I placed the paper gently on the table. "But this isn't me talking. This is a court summons." She was completely stunned. "You're suing me. Criminal charges with a civil suit attached. We'll handle it all at once." I stood up, looking down at her. "This time, I'm not the one asking you to sign. A judge is." I had barely stepped out of the coffee shop when 2 men stopped me. "Mr. Cross, we're with the Criminal Investigation Division. We need you to come with us to answer a few questions." I didn't flinch. "About what?" "Allegations of embezzlement and contract fraud. A report was filed claiming you misappropriated $250,000 from corporate funds 3 months ago." I laughed coldly. "Funny timing. 3 months ago, I was still an employee at your precinct." I calmly handed them my lawyer's retainer agreement, which I now carried everywhere. Was a report filed by Jessica Miller or someone in her family? One of the detectives hesitated for a second. "This is just routine procedure, sir." 20 minutes later, I was at the station. "Mr. Cross, your alibi for the past 3 months is solid. We've preliminarily cleared you, but we need your signature to close the file." As I signed, the detective leaned in and asked quietly, "Who did you piss off?" This report was too perfect, the documents too clean. It looks like a professional frame job. I smirked. Of course it did. I'd seen this kind of move 1,000 times in my last life. That night, I met up with an old friend, Leo Vance. We had started a business together in my past life before I, trusting the wrong people, pushed him out. Now, he was a major player in the fintech world. I told him everything. He listened, then scoffed. "Your ex-wife's move is amateur hour. She's trying to tarnish your credit, block you from getting loans, and make it easier for her to hide assets. She didn't come up with this on her own. She has help," he said. "Who?" "Your wife's ex-boyfriend, Marcus Thorne." A nerve twitched in my jaw. Marcus Thorne. Jessica had always sworn they were ancient history, but I'd had a suspicion about the M.T. that kept popping up in her texts in my past life. Leo sneered. "Marcus is infamous in our circle for character assassination and PR spin. He's targeting you to create chaos, then swoop in and pick up the pieces." My fist clenched. "Good." Leo smiled. "There he is. Now you finally look like a man bent on revenge." The next day, I had my lawyers get to work. We quickly obtained partial evidence of Jessica and Marcus's collusion. On the mortgage documents for the condo, the signature was in my name, but the handwriting was a clear forgery. I immediately instructed my lawyer to file a case for signature forgery and bank fraud, adding Marcus Thorne's name to the list of co-conspirators. That evening, Jessica was taken in for questioning. Marcus was served a summons. I posted a second update to my feed, frowny face. Don't even think about using cheap tricks against a man who's already died once. I'm not afraid of losing my life. What could you possibly have to threaten me with? The post blew up with thousands of comments and tens of thousands of likes in minutes. Just then, my other ace in the hole began to fall into place. In this new life, I wasn't just dodging the people who had hurt me. I was completely rewriting my professional future. In my previous life, my company, Phoenix Rise Systems, became a dark horse in the smart IoT industry in its 5th year with a valuation in the billions. This time, I started development 3 years early. Taking advantage of a favorable regulatory window, I found the genius programmer who had been abandoned by investors back in the day. Sam Chun. You're the guy who said my project was a pipe dream. He said, hostile, the first time we met. I smiled and handed him a single piece of paper. This is a partnership agreement. 60-40 split. You get 60, I get 40. He was stunned. Are you insane? No, I'm just betting on the future. What's in it for you? The satisfaction of watching you crush the dogs who wronged you in 3 years' time. Sam stared at me for a long time, and then his eyes turned red. You're the first person in my life who's ever said they believed in me more than they believed in money. I clapped him on the shoulder. Just remember this feeling, because when that day comes, you're going to be the one to ring the bell on their downfall. Meanwhile, Jessica's world had completely imploded. The bank froze all of her accounts. The condo went into foreclosure. Even her mother's 401k was frozen as part of the investigation. She moved back into her mother's cramped apartment, living the same broke life she had before she met me. The insults on her social media feed turned to mockery. What did this woman do to get completely wrecked like this? She used to post pics in her husband's luxury cars every day. Now she's selling her old clothes on Poshmark. I thought her brother was some kind of big shot. Why isn't he helping her? On my end, Phoenix Rise Systems signed letters of intent with 3 major hardware manufacturers in its first week. An industry analyst commented, Ethan Cross is a madman, but he's a madman who's making all the right moves. I replied to their article with 3 words. I was reborn. Those 3 words left everyone who read them confused. But soon, they wouldn't be the only ones. Jessica, Marcus, and every parasite waiting in the wings to feed on my downfall were about to learn the true meaning of utter ruin. Jessica broke, completely and utterly. The day she was released from custody, she looked like she'd been dragged through a swamp. Her eyes were empty, her hair was a mess, and her clothes were wrinkled beyond recognition. There was no trace of the smug, superior Mrs. Cross she used to be. She called me immediately. Ethan, I was wrong. She delivered the line with a pathetic, practiced humility. I sat in the corner of a quiet cafe, watching the performance. I took a slow sip of my espresso. Wrong about what? Her throat bobbled. I shouldn't have used your money to fund Kyle's schemes. I shouldn't have. Go on. She bowed her head, and a tear fell. Her voice trembled. I shouldn't have filed a false report against you. I shouldn't have conspired with other people to ruin you. I shouldn't have destroyed your condo, your savings, your credit. I smiled. So you admit you knew all of that was wrong? She nodded furiously. I know I was wrong. Can you please just... What about Kyle? I cut her off. She flinched. He's out of state, working odd jobs. He can't find work here. He said he's sorry. I chuckled. So now he knows what can't find work feels like. A flicker of hope appeared in her eyes. So, does that mean you'll consider taking you back? My voice was ice, and the hope on her face froze solid. I placed a small digital recorder on the table and pressed play. Her entire confession echoed in the quiet cafe. Her face went chalk white. You recorded me. Are you going to sue me? I raised an eyebrow. She gritted her teeth. What do you really want? My gaze was like a razor. I want you to disappear. She was desperate. For days, she tried to contact me, showing up at my office, waiting by the entrance for hours. On the last day, she fell to her knees on the pavement outside the building. Ethan, please. I have nowhere to go. My mom kicked me out. I'm at the end of my rope. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of my office, watching her pathetic display below, feeling nothing. My assistant asked nervously, Mr. Cross, should we call security? I shook my head. No, this wasn't nearly enough. I knew with absolute certainty she was just acting, looking for another opening. The moment I showed an ounce of pity, she would sink her teeth into me. I didn't want her surrender. I wanted to destroy the stage she performed on. I let it be known that I would grant her one final meeting to see just how remorseful she was. She came. I took her on a tour of the new office, showed her Phoenix Rise's core projects, and pointed to a young man furiously typing code. That's the lead developer for our entire ecosystem. A spark of interest lit her eyes. Are you willing to let me come back? I nodded and smiled. Of course. I did love you once, after all. She finally looked a little more like her old self. A hint of makeup on, a measure of confidence returning. I loved you too. I just lost my way. I handed her a contract. This is a consultant agreement. You sign it, and you can join the team and assist me directly. She took it eagerly, but as she read through the clauses, her expression soured. Why does it say the second party has zero authority to access company funds and must sign a personal liability waiver? It's a new anti-corruption policy, I said with a smile. She hesitated. And the salary? $5,000 a month. 6-month probationary period. Her face twisted in disgust. Are you kidding me? I looked at her, feigning innocence. I'm giving you a chance. Didn't you say you'd do anything if I forgave you? Her hand trembled, nearly ripping the paper. You son of a bitch, I laughed coldly. A what? The wife of Phoenix Rise's CEO? Are you dreaming? She seethed. Ethan, don't push me too far. I finally dropped the smile and stepped closer. Don't forget, I'm the man who literally clawed his way back from the grave. I've already put you behind bars once. Do you want to try for a second time? She didn't say another word, her face pale as she turned and left. As she walked away, I called out one last thing. I wouldn't go too far. Once your brother's case is settled, you might be having a family reunion. Behind bars. I thought she would finally give up. I underestimated her insanity. 5 days later, I got a call from the police. Sir, someone attempted to commit arson at your office. The security footage showed a figure in a heavy coat and a mask, splashing gasoline from a water bottle onto the front doors of my building. Just as they were about to light it, a security guard tackled them to the ground. It's Jessica Miller. At the station, I watched her struggle and scream like a cornered animal. He ruined my life. I have nothing left. I just wanted him to feel the same pain. I looked at her and said calmly, You were never sorry. You just wanted revenge. She thrashed against her restraints, shrieking, You betrayed me first. You forgot what you said when we married. You promised you'd take care of me for the rest of my life. I leaned in close, whispering in her ear, The man who said that was a fool. And I'm not a fool anymore. She finally shattered, her cries turning into incoherent sobs. I turned and walked out. As I did, my phone rang. It was my lawyer. The verdict on Kyle Miller's case just came down. He was convicted on racketeering charges. They gave him 10 years. I nodded. Excellent. Add Jessica's attempted arson charge to the file. We'll appeal for a longer sentence. She might actually be insane. Good, I said, looking up at the sky. Insane people don't get parole. A few days later, the court handed down the final sentences. Kyle Miller, for fraud, racketeering, and extortion, 12 years in prison. Jessica Miller, for bank fraud, conspiracy, and attempted arson, 9 years in prison, with 3 years of subsequent parole restrictions. Marcus Thorne, for conspiracy to commit fraud and money laundering, 8.5 years. I stood outside the courthouse, the sun warm on my face, and felt a profound sense of peace. The point of being reborn wasn't just to escape. It was to drag everyone who had ever wronged you down to hell with you. I returned to Phoenix Rise Systems, where the new hires were gathered around Sam Chun, discussing the next software update. You walked over. Good work. Sam grinned sheepishly. Just wait. In a few years, when we go public, you'll be the one they all thank. I clapped him on the shoulder. No, it'll be you. You're the genius this industry threw away. He looked at me, his expression suddenly serious. And you, what are you going to do? I smiled. I'm going to continue, taking back everything I was owed in my past life. I turned, the sunlight hitting my face. Everything was just beginning. The day they put Jessica in the transport vehicle, the sky was a brilliant, cloudless blue, and the wind had sharp bite. Her hair was a tangled mess, and her eyes were dead, but she was still spitting curses. Ethan Cross, You'll rot in hell. Even from prison, I'll make your life miserable. I stood at the courthouse steps, hands in my pockets, and offered a faint smile. You no longer have any power over how my life goes. The heavy door slammed shut, and as the van pulled away, I felt it for the first time. A true, final end to that chapter. But she, and everyone else, had severely underestimated me. Jessica and Kyle were just the beginning. My next task was to methodically dismantle the lives of every single person who had a hand in my previous downfall. Back at the office, I called an emergency board meeting. Effective immediately, we are launching Project Spotlight. My head of technology, Sam Chun, frowned. What is that? My eyes swept across the room. We are going to investigate the collapse of my former company, Crosstech Solutions. I want to deep dive into every ex-shareholder, every business partner, every loophole in the legal proceedings. I want every rotten tooth pulled. Sam nodded, his expression grim. The investigation took 3 months. When it was over, the list was complete. Rick Bennett, my former partner at Crosstech, who secretly sold our patented technology to Kyle Miller in exchange for a cut and deliberately cooked the books to force me out. Marcus Thorne, the city's commercial dispute mediator, who took consulting fees from Jessica to expedite the freezing of my assets and helped forge transaction records. Trevor Hayes, a so-called friend from high school, who filed an anonymous tip about my finances while I was on my deathbed, hoping to trigger a full bankruptcy so he could buy my foreclosed house for pennies on the dollar. The blacklist was over a dozen pages long. I stood at the head of the conference table, staring at the names. These people, I said, my voice cold as ice. Leave no one standing. The attack began. First, the financial front. I had Phoenix Rise's investment arm acquire all the outstanding debt for Trevor Hayes' various businesses. Within a month, his main corporate account was frozen, and the bank had placed liens on his 3 properties. He came to me, weeping. Ethan, man, I was just talking. I never thought you'd actually go bankrupt. I replied flatly, but I was the one on a ventilator, fighting for every breath. He dropped to his knees. Give me a break, please. We grew up together. I nodded. All right, I'll let you catch your breath. That same day, my lawyers filed a civil suit against him for damages caused by malicious reporting. Simultaneously, I leaked years of his inappropriate, harassing messages with female colleagues to the media. 3 days later, Trevor Hayes' company was defunct. He was a social pariah with nowhere to run. Second, reputation. Rick Bennett was still thriving in the business world with a successful consulting firm. I publicly released the audio recordings from our old partnership meetings, along with the forensic accounting reports proving his financial manipulations. I used Phoenix Rise's proprietary investor transparency platform to flag him as a malicious actor with a history of fraud. Within 3 days, his client list had shrunk by 80%, and the IRS had opened an investigation into his firm. On the 4th day, he posted a tearful public apology, claiming he regretted his actions deeply. I commented 5 words on his post. You didn't regret it then. 5 days later, his social media went dark. He was never a player in the industry again. Third, the final harvest. Marcus Thorne, the corrupt official who had orchestrated my ruin from behind the scenes, had so far escaped any real consequences. I tracked down several of his old colleagues who had been involved in his schemes. Using legal loopholes and whistleblower protections, I reported his history of accepting off-the-books payments from Jessica's family and receiving project dividends from their fraudulent ventures. This time, I showed no mercy. An internal affairs investigation was launched. The night before he was brought in, he sent me a text message. Ethan, my son is only in middle school. Please, let me go. I stared at the message for 10 seconds. Then I blocked his number. The next day, Marcus avoided jail time by cooperating fully, but his career was over. He was demoted, stripped of his authority, and permanently reassigned to a remote records archive. His salary was cut to $3,000 a month. The man who once destroyed lives with the stroke of a pen was now condemned to a lifetime of paper cuts and dust. I felt no pity. He got what he deserved. I am not a saint. I didn't come back to this life to forgive. I came back for retribution. In 1 year, I went from having nothing to taking Phoenix Rise Systems public in a spectacular IPO. Jessica and her brother were in prison. My former enemies were all in ruins. During a media interview, a reporter asked me. Mr. Cross, what would you say was the single most successful decision you ever made? I thought for a moment. Getting a divorce. The reporter laughed, taken aback. And are you considering getting remarried now? I looked straight into the camera, my gaze steady. No, the only person I'll ever love in this life is the man who decided to live again. A year later, I settled down in a quiet beach town in Florida. No supercars, no entourage. I wake up at 5 every morning, go for a run, brew a cup of tea, and read. Then I manage my global enterprise from a laptop overlooking the ocean. Many people say I'm crazy. I won the war, so why am I living like a hermit? I just smile. I'm not crazy. I'm just done winning. My life no longer requires proof of anything to anyone, and I will never again allow anyone to push me toward the abyss. That winter, someone snapped a candid photo of me walking on the beach and posted it online. In the picture, I was wearing a simple white shirt, walking barefoot on the sand, holding my phone in one hand. The sun cast a golden light on my face, making me look both peaceful and dangerously sharp. The caption read, "Ethan Cross, the man who fell to rock bottom, now earns $1 billion a year and chooses to live alone." The top comment, with thousands of likes, said this: "Rebirth isn't about learning to forgive the dogs that bit you. It's about putting them all down." I saw it, and I silently gave it a thumbs up. They weren't wrong.